North Korean artillery installations have been spotted in Crimea. Russia has probably transferred some of the DPRK troops to the annexed peninsula in order to deploy this contingent in Ukraine, writes ZDF. On March the 26th, a video appeared online showing several North Korean heavy artillery units, Koksan. The footage shows that the artillery units are being transported by rail to the northern part of Crimea. These guns played an important role in the Russian offensive in the Kursk region due to their large radius of destruction. According to the publication, Ukraine destroyed 5 Koksan guns with the help of drones, but Pyongyang handed over at least 200 installations to Moscow. Until now, North Korean troops have only been involved in combat operations in the Kursk region. However, the sudden appearance of Koksan howitzers in Crimea may indicate Russia's plans to deploy North Korean forces directly to Ukraine. The documented presence of Koksan artillery systems on Ukrainian territory is a harbinger of a politically significant escalation. That is, the likely rapid combat deployment of North Korean ground forces in Ukraine, the article says. Earlier, South Korean intelligence reported that the DPRK had sent a new batch of soldiers to Russia. According to intelligence, their number is at least 3,000 people. Of the roughly 11,000 North Korean soldiers sent to Russia, 4,000 were wounded, and it appears that an additional 3,000 or more were sent in January and February, the report says. In addition, according to South Korean intelligence, the DPRK continues to supply Russia with missiles, ammunition, and artillery equipment, including a significant number of short-range ballistic missiles and about 220 units of 170mm self-propelled howitzers and 240mm rocket launchers. In addition, it is emphasized that the DPRK is seeking to improve relations with China, although Pyongyang's main priority remains further strengthening relations with Moscow. Russia is the focus of North Korea's diplomacy, with the regime seeking a full range of exchanges to maximize its troop deployments, South Korea said. At the same time, Forbes reported that the Ukrainian armed forces were effectively destroying North Korea's miracle technology, Koksan, at the front, but North Korea still had large reserves of troops and equipment, including potentially hundreds of additional M1989s.
Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance units in eastern Donetsk region have intercepted and targeted a tank on which soldiers of the occupying Russian army had piled various items in order to protect it from Ukrainian drones. The shells fired from the drone burned the tank's armor, which eventually destroyed the armored vehicle. The Russian soldiers hiding around the tank also failed to avoid the drone strikes. After the successive strikes, several of the soldiers tried to escape, but were unable to do so and were destroyed.
Russia is preparing to escalate fighting near Kursk Oblast, according to Yevhen Dicky, a veteran of the Russia-Ukraine war and former Aidar Battalion company commander. He discussed the expected increase in hostilities with Radio NV. Russia's objectives likely extend beyond just 1% of Luhansk Oblast, and a serious threat to Lyman has emerged, which would be highly concerning. Losing cities that were once occupied and then liberated in 2022 would be a painful setback. It appears that Russia is specifically targeting Lyman. Their ability to secure positions on the eastern bank of the Zerabets River is troubling. With a force ratio of 1 to 10, holding them back will be extremely difficult. Ukraine's command must urgently reinforce its troops, but this raises the question, from where? There are no reserves in the rear. The frontline situation has significantly improved in recent months, largely due to better command structures and ongoing reforms under Major General Mikhailo Drapati, who leads Ukraine's land forces and the Khortytsia military district. However, mobilization efforts in the rear have not kept pace. This leaves a dilemma for Ukraine's top military leadership, including Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky and Drapati. They are fully aware of these challenges, but face the critical question of where to find reserves to reinforce another vulnerable sector. Pokrovsk was Russia's biggest advance in the past year, with a 47-kilometer push at the cost of tens of thousands of troops, equivalent to several full-strength European armies. However, Ukraine has now halted that advance. While Russian invaders remain near Pokrovsk and can observe it, they will not take it. Ukraine has had to deploy significant forces to hold Pokrovsk, but that may leave other areas exposed. Russia is probing for weaknesses, and the Lyman axis appears among the most vulnerable. Ultimately, Ukraine's military command will have to make difficult decisions on how to plug this gap. Meanwhile, mobilization efforts remain stagnant, with no major new initiatives to address the shortage of personnel. Another petition from Russians to Russian dictator Vladimir Putin regarding the so-called SVO has been published. Relatives of missing occupiers from the 25th Assault Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces are asking him to deal with the lawlessness. They tell about the total lawlessness that the commanders of this unit are committing. There is a whole set. Extortion of money from soldiers, sending them on meat assaults to certain death, forming crippled regiments, refusing to evacuate, and much more. Many of us have been looking for our loved ones for over 2 years, and we cannot get any clarity from the command. The command of the unit, represented by commanders with the call signs Tiger and Eagle, throw our soldiers as expendable material into assaults, completely unprepared, without reconnaissance, cover, or artillery support. Soldiers are sent to assaults after serious injuries who are unable to hold a weapon. At the front, these commanders have introduced rates and extortion of money. If you pay, you will sit in the dugout. If not, you go on a one-way assault. Any attempts to call the commanders to justice automatically lead to sending them to the hottest spot on the front line. The leadership of this unit is engaged in forging the signatures of soldiers. The wounded die on the battlefield due to the lack of evacuation. They simply bleed to death, they say. Relatives note that this is not the first time they have turned to Putin for help. Despite the lack of results, they continue to appeal to the dictator. We understand the goals of the SVO, but did you set such goals? How is this possible in a state governed by the rule of law? Vladimir Vladimirovich, help us. Give the order to sort this out, the Russians said. Over the 3 years of full-scale war, thousands of similar statements have appeared from Russian soldiers and their relatives. The Russian dictator has not responded to any of them.